My seat at my sister's wedding was next to the swinging kitchen doors. My own family acted like I wasn't there. A stranger saw me sitting alone. He leaned in and said, "Play along and be my guest for the night." When he was called to speak, he took my hand and led me to the stage with him. The room went silent. My sister's perfect smile disappeared. But before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments section. My name is Marin. I am 26 years old, and my older sister Chloe was getting married. The wedding was in the grand ballroom of the St. Clair Hotel, a place that shined with polished silver and white roses. I helped arrange the centerpieces that morning. I fixed Chloe's veil when it tore. I did all the things a good sister does. My reward was a small card at the entrance to the ballroom. It read, "Marin, table 12. Table 12 was not a table. It was a punishment. It was a tiny round table for two, shoved into the corner between a giant potted fern and the double doors to the kitchen. Every time a server came out, a burst of clattering dishes and shouting cooks hit my back. I could see the head table far across the room, glowing under a spotlight. I could not see my family's faces. The cocktail hour was worse. My mother floated by in a lavender gown, holding the arm of Chloe's new father-in-law. She glanced at me, gave a tight little wave, and turned away to laugh at his joke. My father was deep in conversation with a group of men, his brow furrowed with a worry I didn't understand. My aunt walked right past me to get another glass of champagne. It was like I was made of glass. That is when I heard it. My father's voice, low and strained, to one of the men. "The creditors are circling. If this deal with the Kensington Group doesn't close next week, the business is finished. We poured everything into this wedding. It has to look strong." My stomach dropped. The family business was failing. My business degree, the reports I had written for them that they'd called cute, the ideas they'd ignored, none of it mattered. They were hiding a disaster while pretending everything was perfect. Dinner was announced. I sat at my terrible little table alone. I watched the room fill with the sounds of chatter and clinking forks. I picked at my salad, feeling more invisible than I ever had in my life. Then, a chair scraped beside me. A man sat down. He was handsome, maybe in his late 30s, in a suit that looked both expensive and comfortable. He had calm, observant eyes. He glanced at my place card, then at the kitchen doors swinging wildly behind me. "They have you on noise duty, I see," he said. His voice was warm, not mocking. I managed a weak smile. "Something like that." He extended his hand. "James. Seems we're both in the diplomatic corps tonight." He nodded toward the head table, where Chloe was holding court. "Diplomatic corps?" I asked. "The people placed far away from the action to avoid causing a scene," he explained. He looked at me, really looked at me. He saw the embarrassment, the hurt. "It's a bad strategy. The interesting people are always at the back." For the first time all night, I felt seen. We talked. He asked me real questions about my work, and he listened to my answers. He made me laugh. I saw people at other tables start to glance over, curious about the well-dressed man making the girl by the kitchen laugh. I saw Chloe notice. Her smile tightened as she watched us. After the main course, the master of ceremonies tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention. We have a last-minute, very distinguished guest who has asked to say a few words. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. James Thorne." James Thorne. The name meant nothing to me, but a ripple went through the older guests. My father's head snapped up, his face suddenly pale. James stood up. Then, he did something that changed everything. He turned to me, held out his hand, and said softly, "Come with me." I was frozen. Every instinct said to shake my head, to stay hidden in my corner. But the kindness in his eyes, and the shock on my sister's face from across the room, pushed me. I placed my hand in his. He helped me up from my chair, and together, we walked through the crowded ballroom. Every single person watched us. The music had stopped. The only sound was the swish of my dress and the pounding of my own heart. We passed my parents' table. My mother's mouth was a perfect circle of surprise. We reached the front of the room. James stepped up to the microphone, my hand still in his. He was no longer just my kind tablemate. He was a man in complete command of the room. And I, Marin from table 12, was standing beside him in front of everyone. I did not know what would happen next. I only knew the invisible sister was invisible no more. James held my hand firmly at his side. He gave my fingers a small, reassuring squeeze before he turned to face the room. The spotlight felt hot on my skin. I could see every face staring back at us. Chloe's expression had shifted from annoyance to pure confusion. My father looked like he had seen a ghost. "Good evening," James began, his voice smooth and clear in the silent ballroom. "Thank you for the warm welcome. My name is James Thorne. For those who don't know me, I run Thorne Capital." A low murmur spread through the crowd. I didn't know the name, but clearly, the people who moved money did. My father put a hand over his eyes. "I rarely attend weddings," James continued, his tone conversational. "But I made an exception tonight. You see, I've recently developed a deep interest in a local family enterprise. The Hartman Supply Company." He paused. The murmur died. You could have heard a rose petal drop. After a thorough review, my company concluded that its legacy was worth preserving, but its current path was unsustainable. So, as of 5 o'clock yesterday evening, Thorne Capital acquired all outstanding shares and assets. A gasp cut through the room, followed by a wave of frantic whispers. My mother clutched her pearls. Chloe's new in-laws stared at each other in horror. The secret my father had whispered about was now a public spectacle at his daughter's wedding. James didn't stop. It was a complex evaluation. The company's true value wasn't in its ledgers. It was in its potential. And I was able to see that potential most clearly in the analysis of someone with a keen, insider's perspective. He turned his head slightly toward me. Every single eye in the room followed his gaze and landed on me. Marin Hartman's internal reports on operational efficiency and market repositioning were the most insightful documents I read. They were a roadmap out of the crisis her family chose to ignore. My breath caught in my throat. My reports. The ones I had spent nights perfecting. The ones my father had called theoretical and filed away without a second look. James had read them. He had used them. "So," James said, finishing his toast and raising his glass. "I propose a toast. To new beginnings. For the company. And for Marin, whose keen eye just saved what her family was about to lose." He took a sip. The room was too stunned to follow. No one drank. The silence was thick and choking. James led me off the low stage. The moment we stepped onto the ballroom floor, the spell broke into chaos. My father rushed toward us, his face flushed with a mixture of panic and rage. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice trembling. "You humiliate us at our own daughter's wedding?" Before I could speak, my mother was there, her eyes wide with tears of anger. "Marin, how could you? You sold us out to this vulture." She spat the word at James, who merely watched with calm detachment. Chloe pushed through, her white dress rustling violently. She got right in my face, her perfect makeup now smudged with angry tears. "You ruin everything. This was my day. My one perfect day. And you bring this circus here to make it about you. You jealous little witch." The insults hit like slaps. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I saw my aunts and uncles forming a tight, accusing circle around us. Their looks were not of concern, but of blame. I was the traitor. James stepped slightly in front of me, breaking their line of sight. "The circus," he said, his voice quiet but slicing through their noise, "was already here. You were just the clowns performing in it. Marin didn't ruin your day. Your own pretense did. He took my elbow and guided me firmly through the crowd, away from the head table and toward a quiet alcove near a side exit. Once we were alone, the noise of the scandalized reception fading to a dull roar, I finally found my voice. You read my reports? How? Your father tried to use them as a show of due diligence to get a loan from my bank 6 months ago, James explained. The ideas in them were the only part of his proposal with any value. I bought the company's debt, and then the company itself. Your work was the only asset I wanted. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a simple, thick envelope. He handed it to me. This is a formal offer. The position is Vice President of Strategic Development at the newly formed Hartman Thorne Supply. You would report directly to me. The salary is substantial. The authority is real. It is not a courtesy. It is because you are the only person in that room who understood what was actually happening. I held the envelope, its weight unbelievable. It was everything I had ever wanted: recognition, a real role, a chance to use my mind. It had just been handed to me by a stranger in the wreckage of my sister's wedding. At that moment, Chloe stormed into the alcove. She ignored James completely. Her face was twisted with a hatred I had never seen before. You think you've won? She hissed, her voice low and venomous. You've destroyed this family. You've destroyed me. Was it worth it? Was being the smartest person in the room finally worth making everyone hate you? She stood there, waiting for an answer. James watched me, his offer heavy in my hands. The sounds of my ruined family swirled behind her. I looked from my sister's spite to the envelope in my hands. The choice was now mine, and it was terrifyingly simple. I looked at my sister, Chloe. Her face was red with tears and anger. I looked at the envelope in my hands from James. It felt heavy with a new future. The noise of the ruined wedding was loud behind her. For my whole life, I tried to be quiet and good. I tried to earn my family's love by being small. It never worked. They put me by the kitchen doors. I turned to James. I held up the envelope. I accept the position, I said. My voice did not shake. On one condition. My first project is my own. I start fresh, with a new team. I don't want to fix the old mess. I was choosing my future, not fighting their old war. Chloe let out a sharp, hurt sound. You can't be serious. After what you did? I finally looked directly at her. I didn't do anything, Chloe. Dad's business was failing. He hid it. James bought it. My only part was doing good work that you all ignored. You're not mad about the business. You're mad your wedding isn't perfect anymore. Those are different things. Before she could scream again, my parents found us. My father looked old and crumpled. Marin, please, he begged. His pride was gone. You have to talk to him. You have to make him give it back. It's your family's legacy. You didn't care about the legacy when I tried to save it, I said. The words came out calmly, which surprised even me. You only care about the legacy now that it's gone. You didn't put me at the bad table to protect me. You put me there because you were embarrassed by me. James saw my work when you chose not to. I'm building my own legacy now. My mother started crying. How can you be so cruel? We're your family. I know, I said softly. That's what makes it hurt. I turned and walked away from them, back into the center of the ballroom. James followed a few steps behind, letting me lead. The room was a mess of hushed gossip. Everyone stared as I walked to the band leader. I asked for the microphone. He handed it to me, his eyes wide. I stepped back to the spot where James and I had stood. I tapped the microphone. The last whispers died. I know this isn't a normal wedding toast, I began. My voice carried across the silent tables. My name is Marin Hartman. Most of you know me as the quiet sister. The one in the background. Tonight, you found out I'm the sister who wrote the reports that might save my father's company, even though he didn't read them. A few nervous glances shifted toward my parents. James Thorne saw value where my own family did not. He offered me a chance based on my work, not my last name. I've accepted it. I held up the envelope. This isn't about revenge. It's about respect. It's about finally being seen for what you can do, not just where you're told to sit. I looked straight at my family's table. Where you place someone shows everyone what you think they're worth. Remember that. I handed the microphone back. I didn't wait for applause or more arguments. I walked toward the grand exit of the ballroom. James fell into step beside me. We did not run. We walked slowly, past all the staring guests, past the ruined cake, past my entire history. I did not look back. 1 month later, I was not in a ballroom. I was in a bright, clean office on the 15th floor. A plaque on the door read, Marin Hartman, Vice President of Strategic Development. My small team was in a meeting, brainstorming a new project that was entirely mine. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. It was an invitation to Sunday dinner, to talk. I read it. I placed the phone face down on my desk. I looked at my team and asked for their next idea. I was building something, and it required my full attention. I had spent my life waiting for a seat at their table. Now, I had built my own room. If this story about being seen for your true worth meant something to you, do one thing for me. Subscribe to this channel. That simple click tells the world that stories like this matter. Leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Your support builds this community. Thank you for listening. Never let anyone make you sit at the bad table in your own life.